Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're diving deeper into the Enneagram Type 1. If you are a Type 1 or you know someone who is or think you know someone who is, this episode is for you. Now we've already talked about living and leading as an Enneagram 1, but today we're going to dive a little bit further into looking at how the wings and the subtypes influence how Type 1s show up in the world in their own unique ways. Welcome to the Grace-Filled Leader Podcast. Do you want better work-life balance? Do you get stuck in patterns of perfectionism and people-pleasing? Have you always been an overachiever but never really felt good enough, no matter how much outward success you achieve? Do you want more time for the things that matter most? Well, you are in the right place. Here on the Grace-Filled Leader Podcast, we focus on spirit-driven success and share the secrets to having better work-life balance as a busy woman in leadership. Here you will learn how to set boundaries like a boss, find peace of mind, and reclaim your time for the things that matter most. Hi, I'm Tanya, a wife, mom, leader, and certified Christian life coach. For most of my life, I tried to find worthiness through achievement. I spent decades people-pleasing and pouring myself into my work. I was looking for my value through the approval of others. This led me to feel burned out, empty, and exhausted. I had no time or energy for myself or my family. I realized that I was wasting time and energy looking for validation in all the wrong places. But my life changed when I finally surrendered and God showed me a different way. It is my mission to help you start living the abundant life God has for you. If you're ready to become fueled by grace and find freedom from people-pleasing, if you're ready to multiply your time and impact as a Christian woman in leadership, this podcast is for you. Roll up your sleeves, sister friends. It's time to get after it. Let's start with a quick review of what defines an Enneagram Type 1. Often called the reformer or the perfectionist, Type 1s are driven by a deep desire to improve themselves and the world around them. Their core motivation is to be good, right, and morally upstanding. They seek to live with integrity and they care deeply about justice, fairness, and order. The core fear of an Enneagram 1 is being wrong or corrupt or defective. This often leads to a desire for control over their environment because they feel responsible for making sure that everything is as it should be. Type 1s are governed by an inner critic that's constantly pointing out what they could do better or what needs to be fixed. The driving emotion of Type 1s is anger or resentment. Unlike other types, Type 1s may not outwardly express their anger. Instead, it often manifests as frustration or self-criticism because they feel that they're not living up to their own impossibly high standards. This inner critic pushes them to constantly strive for improvement, but it can also lead to burnout or anxiety. So where does all of this come from? Well, Enneagram 1s often grow up in environments where they feel the need to be perfect in order to avoid criticism or disapproval. They may have been praised for being good and responsible children, which cemented the belief that worthiness comes from doing what's right and avoiding mistakes. This leads to the inner drive to always improve, always do better, and always strive for perfection. Now, with that in mind, let's talk about two other key pieces of the Enneagram puzzle for Type 1s. Remember, we have the wings and the subtypes. These are what add dimension to the Type 1 personality and cause different Enneagram 1s to show up in their own unique ways. Now, as you already know or may already know or remember from previous episodes, each Enneagram type has 2 wings. And these are the numbers adjacent to the core type that influence your behavior and personality. So for Enneagram 1s, those wings are Type 9s, the peacemaker, and Type 2, the helper. Type 1 with a wing 9 is often called the idealist. So if you lean toward a 1 wing 9, you may notice that you have a calmer, more patient demeanor than a straight up type 1. The 9 wing brings a desire for peace and harmony, so 1 wing 9s are more diplomatic, measured, and less confrontational when it comes to pursuing justice or rightness. They still hold themselves to high standards, but they tend to keep their frustrations internal rather than directing them outward. A 1 wing 9 may struggle with indecision or conflict avoidance. They still want to improve the world, but they're more likely to try to do it without stirring the pot too much. As leaders, they can bring a sense of calm and stability, focusing on creating peaceful solutions and fostering cooperation within their teams. So the strengths of a type 1 with a wing 9 or a 9 wing are that they're diplomatic and calm under pressure. They are thoughtful and measured in their approach, and they can see different sides of an issue, making them great mediators. But potential blind spots are that they often avoid conflict even when it might be necessary. They might struggle with indecision or passivity, and they may internalize resentment without addressing problems directly. Now, if you're a type 1 with a wing 2, also known as the advocate, you're likely more outwardly focused on helping others improve. This 2 wing brings a sense of nurturing and a strong desire to be helpful, which makes the type 1 wing 2 more people-oriented than a type 1 wing 9. They still seek to make the world a better place, but they're more likely to do so through acts of service and personal involvement. 1 wing 2s can be more vocal in their opinions because they genuinely want to help others live up to the same high standards they hold for themselves. They might struggle with balancing their personal needs with their desire to serve others, sometimes becoming overextended or resentful when others don't reciprocate their efforts. As leaders, 1 wing 2s are compassionate but still maintain very high expectations. They can be very inspiring role models, driven by a strong moral compass and a genuine desire to improve the lives of those around them. So the strengths of a type 1 wing 2 are that they're highly compassionate and nurturing. They are action-oriented, often taking the lead in helping others, and they have a strong sense of responsibility toward their community. Potential blind spots are that they might struggle with people-pleasing or overextending themselves. They can become critical or controlling when others don't meet their high standards, and they might neglect their own self-care in the process of helping others. Now, let's dive into the 3 subtypes. So we just talked about the 2 potential wings for a type 1. We're going to talk about the 3 subtypes. Each Enneagram type has 3 instinctual subtypes based on core survival instincts. And they are the self-preservation subtype, the social subtype, and the one-to-one subtype. These instincts shape how the core type expresses itself in the world, and for type 1, these subtypes create distinct variations in how their drive for perfection shows up. So first we have the self-preservation type 1, or the perfectionist. Self-preservation ones are the classic perfectionists. They are highly focused on personal integrity, responsibility, and maintaining order in their environment. These type 1s are concerned with being good, not just morally, but practically. They want to ensure that things are done correctly, efficiently, and sustainably, whether that's in their work, their health, their home, their finances, or just their day-to-day routines. Now, these type 1s may be less vocal about their standards than other subtypes, but they hold themselves and others to very high expectations. They often internalize their anger, expressing it through tight control and self-discipline. They believe that if they can manage themselves perfectly, then they can avoid mistakes and ensure a sense of safety and security. So the strengths of a self-preservation one are that they are highly responsible, dependable, and self-disciplined. They are excellent at managing details and creating order, and they are practical and efficient in leadership roles. Potential blind spots are that they can become rigid or overly controlling. They may struggle with self-criticism and burnout, and they might have difficulty relaxing or allowing for mistakes, both in themselves and others. Now we move on to the second subtype, the social subtype of a type 1, often known as the crusader. Social ones are more outwardly focused on making the world a better place. They are driven by a sense of duty and justice, often acting as advocates or moral leaders within their communities. This subtype tends to be vocal about their beliefs and may take on leadership roles in social causes or organizations where they can push for change and uphold high standards. Social type 1s feel a responsibility to model integrity and are often seen as the moral compass for their groups. However, their desire to do what's right can sometimes lead to frustration when others don't meet their expectations or when they feel like they are carrying the burden of morality alone. The strengths of social ones are that they are passionate about justice and improving their communities. They have a strong sense of leadership and responsibility, and they are excellent at motivating and inspiring others to take action. Potential blind spots are that they can become self-righteous or overly critical of others. They struggle with frustration when others don't meet their high standards, and they can take on too much responsibility and feel overwhelmed. Now, finally, we have the 1-to-1 type 1, the reformer. 1-to-1 type 1s are focused on improving close relationships and personal connections. They are more intense and passionate than other subtypes, channeling their perfectionism into one-on-one relationships or causes that they feel deeply about. They have a strong desire to reform others and the world around them, often using their passion to advocate for personal or social change. This subtype is more comfortable expressing anger than other type 1s, and they can sometimes be confrontational in their pursuit of what they believe is right. They are deeply committed to improving the lives of the people they care about, and they may struggle with resentment if their efforts aren't recognized or reciprocated. The strength of one-on-one type 1s are that they are passionate and driven in their close relationships. They are courageous and bold in standing up for what they believe in, and they are excellent at creating deep, meaningful connections. Potential blind spots are that they can become overly critical or demanding in relationships. They may struggle with resentment when their efforts aren't reciprocated, and they can become too focused on reforming others instead of focusing on mutual growth. So, what can you take away from today's episode? Well, much like with any other Enneagram types, first try to understand or tune into your wings, because this can help you balance your personality by kind of leaning into both wings. It can help you balance your leadership style too. Whether you lean more toward the calm, measured approach of a 1-wing 9 or the people-oriented, action-driven style of a 1-wing 2, recognizing these tendencies can help you lead more effectively by looking at how you can leverage both wings to balance yourself out a bit. Second, try to identify your subtype so that you can understand how your core motivations might be showing up in different areas of your life. Whether you're a classic perfectionist, a social crusader, or a passionate reformer, each subtype offers unique strengths and potential challenges that can guide your personal and professional growth. So, as we've talked about before, self-awareness can really lead you toward personal growth and influence growth in your leadership. And lastly, and most importantly, remember that God's grace covers your imperfections. While type 1s are often hardest on themselves, it's important to remember that striving for perfection in our own strength is not sustainable. Rest in His grace, knowing that you are loved and accepted as you are, even as you pursue growth and improvement. So I want to thank you for tuning in, my friends. I hope that this dive into the wings and subtypes of Enneagram 1s has given you some helpful insights. Whether you are a type 1, think you are a type 1, or think you know someone who is a type 1, it can really help improve your awareness and influence your communication and development. As always, feel free to reach out to me with your questions or share this episode with someone who you think might benefit from it. I hope you have a blessed week, and as always, I pray that the Lord fills you with gratitude, peace, and His amazing grace. I pray this episode blessed you, spoke to you, or encouraged you in some way. If so, please share it with a friend and head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. That's the only way for me to know if you're enjoying the show. Nothing blesses me more than to hear from you. Also, come on over to our free Facebook community. This is a great place for us to support one another on our faith and leadership journeys. You can find the link to the group in the show notes or go to gracefilledleader.com/community. If you have questions or content ideas for the show, please send me a message on SpeakPipe or via email. Go to gracefilledleader.com/contact and leave a written or voice recorded message. I would love to know how I can best serve you on the podcast. Now to Him who can do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Ephesians 3, verse 20. Until next time, my friends, God bless.